I'm pouring my heart out here. Every like and subscribe means the world to me. Don't leave me here feeling invisible and unloved. You can make my day with just one click.
In a small village surrounded by deep forests, there lived a girl named Layla. She was different from the other girls in the village. Her face was covered in blemishes, her nose was large, and her hair was rough and tangled. People looked at her with ridicule and disgust. No one liked her, not even her cruel stepmother, who never missed an opportunity to insult her, while her 3 daughters treated her like a servant. Layla spent her days working hard, cleaning the house, cooking, and going to the forest to collect water from the old fountain, where the water was purer than anywhere else. She had no friends except the forest, and she would talk to the trees and the animals she came across. But every night, she would cry under the moonlight, wishing to become beautiful, just so people would stop mocking her. One night, while she was walking alone in the forest, carrying her jar to collect water, she heard a strange sound, as if the wind was whispering her name. A chill ran down her spine, but she continued her walk until she reached the old fountain. She sat on its edge and began crying deeply. Suddenly, a magical light appeared before her, and a beautiful fairy appeared, glowing like the moon, wearing a long blue gown and transparent wings. The fairy spoke softly. "Why are you crying, little one?" Layla, with tear-filled eyes, replied, "I wish to become beautiful. Everyone mocks me, and no one loves me." The fairy smiled kindly and said, "True beauty comes from within, but because you have a kind heart and honesty, I will grant you a gift." The fairy raised her magic wand, and the water in the fountain glowed with a golden light. Layla felt warmth spreading through her body, and suddenly she saw her reflection in the water. She could hardly believe her eyes. She had transformed into the most beautiful girl she could imagine, with silky long hair, bright eyes, and soft glowing skin. "I have granted you the outer beauty you wished for," the fairy said. "But remember, do not let your heart change. True beauty is the purity of your soul." The fairy then disappeared, leaving Layla in a state of astonishment. Layla returned home, and when her father saw her, he could hardly believe his eyes. Her stepmother gasped in shock, while her daughters looked at her with envy and hatred. In the following days, everyone in the village talked about the beautiful girl who had suddenly appeared. Young men raced to catch a glimpse of her, and even the young women were enchanted by her beauty. However, this drove her stepmother mad, as she realized her daughters were no longer the most beautiful in the village. She decided to uncover the secret behind this sudden transformation. One night, the stepmother sneaked into Layla's room and hid while Layla spoke to herself, thanking the fairy and the magical fountain. At that moment, the stepmother understood the secret and decided to send her 3 daughters to the fountain to make them more beautiful than Layla. The next morning, she told her daughters the plan, and they eagerly set off to the forest. When they arrived at the fountain, they began to cry, pretending to be sad. And indeed, the fairy appeared again and asked them, "Why are you crying?" The eldest daughter arrogantly said, "We want to become more beautiful than Layla." The middle daughter greedily said, "We want to be the most beautiful in the world." The youngest daughter said, "There should be no one more beautiful than us." But the fairy did not smile this time. Instead, she looked at them with sadness and said, "Beauty is not just in appearance, but also in the heart, and those who seek beauty through envy will get what they deserve." She then waved her wand, and the water shimmered with a dark color. Suddenly, the sisters began to scream. The eldest sister turned into a proud peacock, the middle one into a mischievous monkey, and the youngest one into a frog, hopping around in every direction. The sisters ran home, screaming with the voices of their new animal forms. When their mother saw them, she was struck with shock, but she could do nothing. The story spread throughout the village, and everyone learned what had happened. Layla remained unchanged, beautiful inside and out, with her kind personality still intact. As for the stepmother, she became lonely after her daughters ran into the forest and disappeared forever. Since that day, the village learned an important lesson. True beauty is not in the face, but in the heart. The magical fountain remained hidden in the forest, only appearing to those who truly deserved it. The story has ended, and I hope we have learned the lesson from it. Until we meet again in a new story, goodbye, my children.